This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 34. I'm one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my partner in crime,
Turbo Penguin. Let's go, guys.
Happy Monday, Turbo, and happy Monday to all of you out there in the internet land sphere of things cloud. So, we've got some interesting news over this weekend that leaked out. Do you have anything you want to talk about first before we get started, Turbo, or shall we jump into it?
I think, we can talk about things. It's really interesting. It feels like the release of graphics this cycle has been more of games. I kind of have the sinking suspicion that what we're hearing and seeing is the different manufacturers releasing different leaks and legitimately looking at the reaction and more or less basing some of their business decisions on this.
Yeah.
And I find it very, very interesting that what we're seeing is like, I think at the beginning there was a notion that it would be $2,000 for like the 5090,
right?
And I believe, I don't think that we've actually gotten to the point where we know what that is, by the way. So I don't want to sit there and kind of
yeah, I mean, we haven't.
It's so strange, like the notion, and like I go back and forth to being really hacked off to like going back and forth.
Yeah,
like what I don't understand is how there's a graphics card that's marketed as a graphics card that is going to be, I mean, what are we seeing now? I mean, the problem is it changes every freaking day.
Yeah, and it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. The most recent leak right now comes from what I've seen from a Chinese retailer that includes VAT, and that works out with the tax. That worked out, if I remember right, to just shy of $3,000 US. But if you take the tax out of it, or what we suspect is the tax, it works out to about $2,300, which any way you slice it is just stupid. I mean, let's take it from the perspective of the 4090. What was the MSRP on the 4090? $1,400.
14.
It's $900 more. It's almost 50% more expensive than the previous generation. Is it 50% faster? I highly, highly doubt it.
No, I don't think it's going to be 50% faster at all. Like, yeah, period.
With 32 gigs, it might be 50% faster in like AI computation or potentially ray tracing, but overall raster, which is what 99% of games still use, it's not going to be there. It's not worth it. It might be the fastest card on the planet, but if you're buying it because it's just because it's the fastest card on the planet,
money's not an issue.
Money.
I mean, yeah, no, like that's it. And and I get it. I mean, it used to be you had a Titan card, and everyone would be like, "Oh my gosh, it's the best of the best."
Yep.
And the problem is, and all I would say is that those Titan cards, while I'm sure they lasted, my guess is that they did not age horribly well.
No.
And I sort of kind of think, like, for instance, if I said, what's the story going to be of a 4090 in 3 or 4 years, I think people are going to more or less be like, well, it's a really heavy card and it has PCB problems, and it's problematic
and all that. Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
And like the 3090, like they were comparing the 3090 to, I think I saw a 5070 Ti.
Hmm.
and it was trading blows. And I think the notion is that look, it's up to a person to find out where value is. And well, some people will look at a 5090 and absolutely see value. And I'm not complaining about that. That's
Yeah.
their personal opinion, and
Yep.
that's fine. That is absolutely fine. I'm not upset about that at all. But I question um uh, my what angers me is that we're absolutely pushing the entire stack of pricing upwards.
Yep.
It's not, I'm not upset that there's going to be a 24 $2,500 graphics card. I'm not upset about the fact that there's a price point there.
Yep.
It's that also means that the 5080 is going to be a ridiculously expensive card, and that I think is really where I have my problems.
The
Because
5080 in that league was $1,300.
here's my problem: is it like is it faster? Yes. Is it going to have this? It's my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong. The 5080 is supposed to be speed wise similar to a 4090, correct?
Typically,
I don't
that's how
think
it
that.
goes. That's kind of the way the rumors have kind of leaned. But again, we won't know for sure until we see the GPUs deployed in the field.
Now, the
But
other thing is in the leagues, coming full back, and this is the question I have,
mhm,
because they talk about advanced DLSS.
right,
Now, the question is, and I believe this is the loaded question, and we will not know this until Monday, is is there going to be a benefit to running um, a different, like, is the 50 series going to have something baked into it, tensor core
yeah,
upgrades, or is there going to be something that they can do that the prior gen can't? Now they've been really pushing this, you know enhanced photogenic path tracing stuff.
hmm, yep,
And look, I've said this all along. I believe that ray tracing has a long term place in gaming.
yep,
I believe
just
that
like physics
that
did.
just like physics did. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's a stepping stone, right?
Yeah,
I think if you understand this, it allows you to learn and do different things. But the problem is, we hit to realize is that this is the first generation of a very new rendering platform.
yeah,
Um, there are going to be graphics cards that are going to be way fast. They're going to be way faster computationally to keep up with what you're trying to do.
sure.
And so the follow up piece that I have is that where does all kind of lay out when it's all said and done? Part of me actually right now almost wants just pure rasterization rather than DLSS and rather than ray tracing and all those things, because at the end of the day, right now, rasterization is where the majority of games are set up.
Yeah,
Um, I think a lot of gamers are in that same boat. I like the thought of DLSS, but I think the problem that I have is that at the end of the day, I'm just dumbing down, you know, my my image quality. I mean, I can do
Eh,
that with running 1080p. I mean,
yes
I
and
just run
no.
fewer pixels.
So DLSS, and as we've seen with FSR, DLSS is able to cut down the rendering overhead on the raster side and give you a boost in performance without a perceptible, if you have it set right, without a perceptible drop in image quality. I mean, I run DLSS on my laptop, I run FSR on my desktop. And, yeah, I get 50% in some games. Some games I get double. 7 Days to Die is a good example. UT based games are another great example, like Fortnite, where I actually get double the frame rate by turning on FSR on my desktop at 4K. And instead of slumming it around at like 70, 80 frames a second, I'm able to hit my frame rate cap of 120 on my 4K TV. And so, and yes, I did use that slumming at 70 facetiously. But, it does have a significant benefit without a perceptible drop in quality. And people say, oh, well, they're fake frames. Well, can you tell the difference? Probably not. I can't. And what matters is whether or not I can. And so, being able to benefit from that effectively free performance from that is awesome. And, with FSR 4, we're supposed to see actual dedicated new hardware in there. It's possible that Nvidia did the same thing with the 5000 series and has some new dedicated hardware for DLSS to improve it. It's also entirely possible that they haven't done anything new or different. They've just significantly refined the algorithms and said, nope, we're just locking it to 5000 series and go jump in a lake if you're in a 4000 or older. Which is another thing they've done, where hackers have pulled the drivers apart and made the new feature work, and it works just fine on the older GPU. So, it could be that it could be one, it could be the other. I'm all for it because, if you set it up properly, you can get a bunch of free performance out of it. Are you going to need it on a 5090? Probably not for a while, but, it'll at least be there. And you could brag that you're getting 400 frames per second in Fortnite rather than, 290 something.
I mean, look, there's a subset of people that want it. I the 5090, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same with the 5080, which is a stupid price at $1,300. That's $100 less than the 4090 launched.
Okay, so
by the way,
here's my question. Coming back to this. Okay, so if the pricing is right, the 5080, okay, and they're just saying, well, it's a 40, it's a newer, faster version of a 5080. It's more, or a 4090. It's more efficient, right? Yeah. And it's the second generation, the second iteration. The follow-up question that I have on that is, what does that look like? Like, does that mean that graphics cards in general are going to hold their value way better because of how expensive new cards are? Or do we think that new cards, like the question is like, right now I should be able to go buy a 4090 if you had them in stock, right? An MSRP for a 4090 should be about 14 to 16. You could probably, if you could find them, like they've stopped making them, so it's harder to find them. But let's just say the MSRP is the 14 to $1,600 card. Does that mean that those cards hold their value better? Is the 4080 Super, the 4080 Super going to be a much better, card that's going to hold its value because it's compared to against a 5070? Or do we think the 5070 is just going to be is everything like a step up? Like, so if my 4090 is here, do we think a 5080 is going to be some steps up? Because when the Super line, like the 4070 Ti Super came out, the 4080 Super came out, those were faster for a lower price, because the 4080 originally was $1199, and then the 4080 Super came out at $999, and it was faster.
Yeah. And well, that's the thing is, I think they might actually be playing that game for the not necessarily for the used market, but for their existing stock. Because for the last, 6 months, we've been hearing nobody's buying graphics cards, nobody's buying 4080s, nobody's buying 4070s. And so I think Nvidia is like, well, we've got this huge stock out there and we got to release a new GPU, but we don't want to undercut our existing stock. and have to buy it back from retailers. So here's a higher price, gamers.
I'm interested to see how this goes, because the other half of this is if, the other half we got to keep in mind from a political perspective, there is talk of tariffs playing a
Mm-hmm.
bigger role, if and we're seeing some fairly large numbers
Oh,
on tariffs. So
yeah.
if they're talking of a release at a 1400 for a 5080,
Ooh,
the
I hadn't thought of that.
percentages I've seen are
Yeah.
somewhere between 30 and 45% for some devices. Um, that's a big ticket increase right there. I
Yeah.
mean, your 13 $1,400 card is very easily seven. What is that? Let me do the old calculator.
Well,
1400 times
I
one
I'm
point
kind of
four.
wondering if they are playing the tariff game.
1960.
So yeah, I wonder if they are playing the tariff game where Nvidia comes out as good guy Nvidia and they're like, "Hey, remember when we launched at this ridiculous price? Doesn't seem so ridiculous now because we're lowering the price, but it's going to stay the same."
So okay, so you're thinking that well,
I'm wondering if they're pre-tariffing just to get some extra profit in.
you think they're going to and then eat them? I don't know if that's the case. That's pretty.
It's something Nvidia would do. Let's be honest here. I mean, look at the games. Soon as they found out that gamers were using their cards to mine, what did they do? Light hash rate. What else did they do? Mining cards.
I
And they
I don't
charged
know.
full price for a 4060 mining card that had no display outputs. And or 3060 mining card, and then told you on the 3060, sorry, you only get half the performance of your GPU on your 3060 when you're mining. But you got to buy a mining card.
I
No, I
look.
don't have any evidence to prove that. It's my supposition, and it's pure speculation on my part. Nvidia's very sue happy lawyers, but I suspect that may be what they're doing. I don't
Um,
like it.
I don't like it either. Um, I I am very interested to see. Um, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. I think next week is going to be really, really interesting
Mm-hmm.
from a um, from a pricing perspective, to
Yep.
see exactly what is going to happen here, because I really think that what we're really going to see is Nvidia's view on how good or bad the economy is, and the worldwide economy.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the solution is simple: this: if you see these prices and you're not happy, don't go buy one.
Yep.
It's simple. This is how United States and everywhere works. If nobody is going to go out and spend $2,500 for a 5090, they're not going to sell the 5090 at that price.
Yep.
And if they don't sell the 5080s, guess what? There comes a point when they have to answer why things are or aren't selling.
Yep.
And
And they're going to have
I
to answer them to stockholders, which are even more sue happy than Nvidia is. I
now
would not want to be a CEO of a company that pissed off its shareholders, Intel.
oh, I let's switch gears here real quick, because
Sure.
the other topic I want to bring up um is the 9070 XT.
Yep.
Now, we had talked about that there was talks about where that card would be really priced like a performance and a price aggressive.
Right.
And last week we kind of get a notion that maybe we're not going to be as price aggressive, but then it also comes out that maybe they're not going to hit the pricing targets they had hoped they would see, or the
Right.
performance targets they would hoped. Um, and maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's them coming back full circle and being like, we're not going to hit that. Um, the problem is that I think the issue is that from a performance perspective, some of the numbers show that it's barely keeping up with the 7900 XT.
Right.
And uh, look, I have real problems with that.
A lot of that
Um,
could be down to early drivers because this is a new architecture they're working with.
the problem that I have,
But yeah,
even then, is that they're sitting there saying, "Well, this is just RDNA 4. CDNA is really what's coming."
yeah,
So,
or
so
UDNA, yeah,
or UDNA or whatever the heck they're going to call it. So, but then my follow up question is, why would I buy an AMD GPU
why release
if
it?
the next generation is what's really going to be the good stuff?
Right.
And I think they've done a really poor job at um, communicating what they want to deliver on this. Look,
Sounds familiar for AMD, right?
it absolutely is, and I hope that wouldn't be the case. I
Yeah.
really did, but I'll be honest, I am really concerned,
Hmm.
so really concerned about what this is going to look like. Um, they are making a ton of money with 9800X 3D. They'll make even more money when they have a 9900X 3D that's coming out. We know that 9950X 3D. We know that's coming out. Give it 6 months, and we'll have a 9600X 3D. And knowing AMD, we'll have a 9601, a 9602, 9603, all the
And then
different
a
versions.
7300X 3D coming out next year.
Oh no, and then you'll have the 5850X 3D that'll be on AM4. But
they're going to be releasing AM4 parts in 2030. Let's just
in
face
2030,
that.
like
Yeah.
it'll be the never ending, just so that they can say they've had the longest
Never
running
ending
board.
socket. I
I mean, right?
apologize to everyone that was deafened by that.
I mean, so I, I just I have I have high expectations and hope. Well, let me rephrase that. I have high hopes. I had hoped that we would see some really good stuff coming out of AMD, and I sort of feel like at this point everything just sucks.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
like because right now, how much is a 9800 XT? Let's see, PC
Good
part
question.
picker.
You mean a 7800 XT?
No, a 7900 XT.
7900
Okay,
XT. Yeah.
products, GPU. Come on.
See, and I think that's why
Video card.
why AMD's re-rolling their part numbers on the GPU side, because of that whole confusion between what's what.
Okay, so a 7900 XT is 639 right now. That is the Power Color Hellhound edition. And let's see, that is found on Amazon, 639. Okay, by the way, 7900 XT, great card. Left it while I had it. Glad I returned it. Still good card. 639. They're talking about selling this at 649, but it's going to be comparable with better ray tracing. Guys, can you just not understand? You've got to make value somewhere. You can't just slot it into the same spot that you have the 7900 XT.
Right.
If you're going to compete, now the notion is if you're going to compete at the 7900 XT, and between that, it was supposed to be between the XT and the XTX. It's supposed to be right there, right in the middle, somewhere in there. It's better than the XT, not as good as the XTX, but it was going to have really good ray tracing. And I feel like that all of the leaks that we're hearing off are the softening of all of these performance targets.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like it's gonna absolutely just be like I am prepared for it to be just meh. Like
Yeah, well, and honestly,
the 9000 series is going to be meh. I'm calling it right now. It's going to
yeah,
be meh. I really wanted it to be better than it is, but I'm just,
as
I'm done
yeah,
waiting for AMD to get their crap together
yep.
because it just keeps on being disappointed. I mean, had they launched the 7000 series at a better price point, I think we would have had a much better, different view on that.
Yeah.
The problem is that even with these cards, like in the next generation coming, these cards did not drop as much as I thought we would. The
Well,
XTX
yeah.
cards are still selling surprisingly expensive. How much is the cheapest XTX card? Is still 869.
Yep. And it's not a bad card. It's just the price is out of whack.
I,
And that's something we're seeing on from both major GPU vendors.
yeah, I mean,
You know,
we've said it before. We've heard other people say it. There's no bad card, just bad price. And
yeah.
at the you bought this, just keep on coming down. The notion is a lot of people are saying that none of these RDNA 3 cards are moving, like they're
Mm-hmm.
just not selling. And
So why would
AMD
you release
computer,
something right in that same price range that has the same performance?
what I don't understand is why they didn't just come out and say, okay, new price for the XTX, blow out and make it so that you could sell those things and move them off shelves. So when the 9000 series, you're not competing. I think the problem they're going to have again with this is they're going to have competing RDNA 3 versus RDNA 4.
Yeah.
And, yeah, okay, the XTX is faster, but you're going to trade off for ray tracing. Who's going to buy an XTX at that point at 869? Nobody. You're going to drop the price anyways, but no one's going to buy it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, not just ray tracing, but AI as well. I mean, because
just
the
overall,
RDNA 4 adds, I believe it adds some tensor cores too. So, that's the thing is I think you summed it up pretty good. That this entire GPU generation that we have coming is looking like
garbage.
a big meh. I
I mean,
mean, it's not that the cards are bad. It's not that the performance is going to be bad. It's just we're all getting screwed on price. And
we'll see what the final pricing is. I mean,
yeah,
there is a chance that Jensen gets on stage in CES and announces a 5080 at 1100.
still, I would not be happy with that.
Um, it depends on where the performance target is.
5080, 999, I would be okay with. It's really pushing it, but I get it given inflation. 5090 should be 1500 tops. And
I don't see that. I don't. To be honest, I agree
I
with
don't
you.
see him doing it,
I don't
but
see him doing it.
yeah, that's where the value is for me. That's where it's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
5090 kind of makes sense. And keep in mind, I'm the idiot that paid $1,600 for a 6800 XT.
69.
6900 XT. Gosh dang it, I still do that. How many years have I had this card and I call it one model down? See, that's why I'm an idiot bloviator, okay? That's what I do. That's,
Look, I can understand where people say they want to use it, and I can
yeah.
understand them like spending the money and finding value. If you
Yeah.
find value, then I don't really care as long as you enjoy it.
If you have a business need for it, buy it all day long and twice on Sunday.
If you sit there and tell me you're going to like this and you're going to find value and happiness from having it, and it's worth that much money to you, then do it. I just think for the average gamers, the problem is I feel like we're all going to get stepped down. Like if you're normally an 80 series gamer, like in that price point, you're being pushed into the 70 and 70 series and 60 series.
Yep.
And because there's not competition, Nvidia can kind of do whatever they want.
Yep.
Intel is not going to be a competition. AMD, we will wait and see.
Remember, Intel did the same thing on the CPU side until Ryzen came out. Yeah. Didn't they have a CPU that launched $1,000 for a while?
Oh, I'm sure they did. They've always had really expensive CPUs.
Yeah, they've been pricey, but
especially
at least
the extreme editions, right? The extreme editions you could get for $1,000 pretty much every time. So,
yep.
Look, we'll see. Next week is going to be huge.
Yes, it will.
We've got Nvidia and AMD releasing pre-CES, kicking off CES.
GeForce Land 50. Yep.
GeForce Land 50.
And we are going to have coverage of that with our reporter on the spot.
Heck yeah. So I will be there for sure. I will have, if I can get images, I will get view images. And keep an eye out, because it's very possible that we may see some stuff coming out of GeForce Land that's maybe not necessarily coming out quite yet. So it's possible we'll have some really good news coming out next week, or this weekend actually, because I'm weekend there on Saturday. So
yep.
I leave on Friday. So anyways, keep an eye out, hit the like and subscribe, and the little ding ball, little bell,
ring the bell,
because the bell will tell you when we have new stuff. And so I'm interested to see. They may not release anything. It might just be another LAN party, but I don't know. If they call it GeForce Land 50 for the 50 series,
or 50 hours.
50 hours.
They say it's 50 hours. Yeah.
Sure.
I buy that. Right. Sure.
That's not true, because I'm showing up early on Saturday and I'm staying late until Monday after. So we'll see. But on that bombshell.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your day to talk some stuff about things and technology and all that good stuff.
At the end, we're all just gonna be old, cranky, pissed off people because things cost too much money. We're like, I remember buying a GeForce 256 that cost me $99.
Yeah. By the time we have to deoxit our slots and sockets, we're gonna. We're gonna be like 90 years old, and I remember when there wasn't even 3D acceleration.
Exactly. So,
anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. We appreciate your time. Have fun storming the castle. Good night, everybody.